all three of these gentlemen, for those that don't know, Mike Potter, who is District 1, 2, 3, 4, District 4, and Commissioner, I'll go over that in just a second, and of course our two candidates, Mark Delayden and Chuck Schaus. And Chuck is from Otsego, Mark is from St. Michael. Out of the spirit of transparency, they have volunteered to be here tonight to be able to speak to why they're running for county commissioner, and you'll get an opportunity after they do that to be able to ask questions of them. And we're not going to, unless it's not respectful, because we want questions to always be respectful, you'll get to ask your questions unfiltered. Mike is here to explain what a county commissioner does. The challenge for Wright County residents is, they've heard from me a few times, is that the only time you get to talk to them in the evening is at the Truth and Taxation meeting in December. Otherwise, it's always 9 o'clock on Tuesday mornings, every other Tuesday, correct?
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday, excuse me. So, which makes it a challenge for working people. But, so, thank you everybody for being here. My name is Lane Roshan. I've lived in St. Michael for 26 years, and we put this together because we want to give everybody an opportunity to learn about what the county commissioners do and to ask questions of people that are candidates here, because it's a challenge to do that later on in the year. So, thank you. Oh, I wanted to explain two other things. There are 5 districts, and we have 4 of the county commissioners here. We have Chris Houston, who's running for, she's in District 1, which includes Buffalo and all parts west towards Meeker County. Derek Vetch, who is County Commissioner, Monticello, all the way up to Clearwater, all the way up to Stearns County, up that direction. Mark Delayden, who's current Commissioner, that includes the east part of St. Michael, on the east side of County Road 19, and Otsego.
And a little bit, don't forget about the part of Dayton.
Excuse me, there's that little slice of Dayton. Eric Lucero would be disappointed if I didn't mention it. And then there's Mr. Potter, who represents Albertville, Hanover, Rockford,
Township,
and so the west part of St. Michael. And then Charlie Burrell is the last one. He has the bulk of the rural area of Wright County, southern and western part that includes Delano, it includes Howard Lake, Waverly, Montrose, and Cokato. So those are our commissioners. 2 other things, if you're interested, I just printed out a few copies of the map of the districts. They're on the table over there. There are also business cards from both of you. So if you have questions that you want to ask afterwards, but you don't want to ask them here, the gentlemen here have provided business cards. And then lastly, this event is, while we don't endorse candidates, this is being put on, if you will, by the Wright County GOP BPOU. We are the group that is the political operating unit for Wright County. And I encourage people, if they haven't been to the Wright County GOP BPOU, and that's kind of the, politically speaking, the direction you lean in, we have great discussions at our BPOUs. Meetings. It's once a month. It's at Buffalo American Legion, the 3rd Monday of every single month. We've had every single candidate who's running for Republican, that's running for state office, and our legislators. They always speak there. We've had everybody come there and talk to the people that are in attendance. And our legislators give us their legislative updates on a monthly basis during the legislative session. It's a great way to learn more about what's going on in your county and what's going on in the legislature. And we have our county commissioners come there on occasion to give us their updates as well. So, that said, we will now turn it over to Mr. Potter.
Thank you, Lane. First off, I'm going to quote from the duties of a county commissioner. It came from Association of Minnesota Counties, AMC. So if you hear AMC in the future, you know what it is. It basically, county commissioners are the county's key policymakers overseeing the operations and administration of the county budgets. Okay, the other thing is similar legislative bodies, just like city council now, we just do it at the county level, which has a lot more departments. There's like 15 different departments going down from your tax, your assessor, out to treasurer, which is also in charge of elections, because that falls on the county. We got the sheriff's department, but the sheriff is an elected official like we are. just like the auditor treasurer and the county attorney. So we have limited autonomy over them. They have a little bit more say in what goes on in their budget than the rest of the department heads. But we basically oversee what comes through, and we have to follow the laws and the mandates from the state and the federal. Make sure we're in compliance with those things, still provide the service to the citizens as cost effective as possible. And we serve on a lot of advisory boards besides doing the regular county things. I'm on 16 different advisory committees, you know, and everybody's in that same neighborhood, and I also sit on a few transportation things besides that, just because that's my forte, what I like to do. And we also serve as county representatives for state and federal legislators, congressmen, when they come around, because we are the voice. They say when they have lobbyists hit them all the time, when you have elected officials, city officials are worth a few more points. County officials, for some reason, are worth a lot more points when they hear from us, so they would really like to hear from us all the time. And the state law defines the roles and responsibilities of us commissioners, you know, what we can regulate through ordinances and resolutions. We don't pass laws. People have that mistake that we don't pass laws here. That's St. Paul and DC. But we have to implement what they tell us. And one of the central roles is to perform the county management of overseeing personnel system, which we have 700 some employees, and they have an HR department, and each department has their own classification with compensation and everything else. We got to oversee all that, so it's a little more complicated than it seems. The other big item is HHS, Health and Human Service. I mean, that's got a few different factions within that. The county is mandated to run that, and that if that fell to the cities, our tax rate would be a lot less, you know, because through the wisdom of the legislature or the state, they said no, the counties run that too. We have a park system, and like I said, all these all have budgets, and we have what's called the capital improvement plan we go through. Every year we update this, what's coming on in the future, not only with the say parks, the highway, the sheriff's department, assessors, elections, everything else, health and human service, what's coming on board. We have to deal with and try to put in a plan that we can anticipate what's coming on, so we know expenses are coming up. Like recently we built a highway shop, and we built a sheriff's support building. Under construction right now is a justice center. These are things that we need to do to upgrade, because you can't live in something forever the way we're growing here. We're 134,000 people now. We're anticipated to be 200,000 by 2040, which different set of rules apply with more people coming in. It's just more demands on services. We have 512 miles of county road that we need to take care of. You know, and most of those are CASA, the cash tax money that comes down, filters down to the county, but 106 of them are local levy dollars. And a lot of that, you gotta keep in mind, those are the rural areas, the farm to market. We're in charge of those, and most everybody, every city, every township accesses the county road to get anywhere. You know, you need a county road to get to the state highways, to get to the freeway. Okay, these are some of the things we have to do there that, see, and we don't have, like I say, with the sheriff's department being one, they have a unique situation being an elected official, is they can challenge us if we set a budget that they don't agree with. To a point, because we're amenable to public safety, and they have to kind of prove that, but it's not that high a threshold to get over, because we got to provide, you know, public safety to the citizens of the county. Otherwise, with like the elections and the assessor's office, the county is in charge of doing property valuation. It falls on the counties, even though the cities like to do their own. It still falls on the county to make sure we're in compliance with the state law, which is 90 to 105% of true market value. And that was a change from a generation ago, where it used to be assessed value, and that was too arbitrary, they decided, and make it to its true market value. So basically, if you take a town and cut it in quarters, every fourth year they come back around to evaluate your property based on sales comps, everything else is going on. Sometimes people get a little bit irate about what the value is, but then they see their neighbor selling their house for $50,000 more than they got it valued at. The state does watch that. We're at 99.8% of true market value, which is pretty darn good. I think they like that. We also, our tax rate in our county compared to our peer counties, we're still a lot lower than everybody else's, and we want to try to keep it that way, and that's why we spend so much time budgeting, and we spend a lot of time with capital improvement, which pieces fit in and where they fit in. And Lane, that would be about it. I mean, that's in a nutshell, but you can go online, and it'll tell you what the duties of our county commissioner are if you want to fill in the blanks even more. Otherwise, we're kind of the invisible layer. but there's a lot of activity happens at the county level that is, hits us at the grassroots at the lower level all the way up, and also affects what happens state and federal.
Thank you, Mike, for that. I was just gonna mention, while Mike's not up for running for office this year, 2 years from now, perhaps so, but any of the commissioners, including Mike, can field your questions. If you look at I left a map over there, there's phone numbers, and there's also an email address there. If you have any questions that are county related, you feel free to do so. And I encourage people to go, and I don't know the date, because we don't know the date yet, but I encourage people to go to the Truth and Taxation meeting that happens every year. It happens in December, probably a Tuesday, if I recall right, Tuesday or Monday, one of the 2 days.
It is.
Oh, you already know.
December 6th at
December 6th.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, okay.
It's just an interesting process. It helps to hear, if you have questions about not so much your assessments, because that's what the May meeting is about, but if you have real big challenges about that, you can still bring it up. But it's an opportunity to learn more about the county processes here, unless you can attend those 9 o'clock Tuesday morning meetings that most people can't attend to. So, again, Mike's not here to field questions per se, but you can ask him questions if you wish to. So, now we'll get to the candidate portion of things. We're going to allow them to speak as long as they want to, because I think we have enough time to be able to do it, unless people have lots of questions here. So we're not going to limit you to like 5 minutes. You can speak to as long as you want to, however you want to, about why you're running for our county commissioner here. Who wants to go first? Rock, paper, scissors?
Let the incumbent decide. My name's Chuck Schaus, and I first of all want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I think that it's very important that if you're going to vote or not vote, you should at least know the issues and know the candidates that are running for what particular office. To give you a little bit of my background, I come from a career in law enforcement. I was in law enforcement for 26 years. The last 15 years of my career, I was on the command staff of the department that I was at. I was a sergeant in my particular department. It had what we call a flat table of organization, which means that there were only 2 people above me in the entire command staff. So I was part of the management of the police department. I had just about every job there was as far as supervising different divisions of that police department. During my time in law enforcement too, I was also kind of on the outside. I was on the board of directors of the National Fraternal Order Police, which is the largest police organization in the United States with currently 330,000 members. I was the representative from Minnesota, and we had 44 state lodges, so the board of directors have 44 members, and I was one of them. The Fraternal Order Police does a lot of union activities, benevolent activities, officer assistance, just about anything. So it was a pretty broad spectrum as far as experience through that. I retired from law enforcement, and my retirement job, because I kind of laugh because I think I worked more hours than I ever did when I was a cop, is currently at the nuclear plant in Monticello. I work for the security department there, and did it for the health coverage. And when I started in 2010, the idea was, well, I'll work another 5 years, and then I'll be able to go out and buy my own health coverage, and everything will be great. And then in 5 years, I realized that it would be absolutely cost prohibitive for me to buy my own health coverage. And it was, well, I guess I love my job. So I'm still there. I've been there since, like I said, 2010. Moved to Otsego in 2013. Before that, born and raised in Minnesota. Actually, I was born and raised partially in Minnetonka. Moved to Woodbury, then I came back to this side of town. I do have some Wright County roots in the fact that my uncle, Don Peterson, was of Peterson Chapel fame. His wife, Joan, is my father's sister. So I remember many summers around Buffalo Lake. And when we talk about the courthouse downtown, I've had some conversations with some folks about that. I vividly remember that when I was, about this high. So it's a lot of summers out here, so I've always kind of had, soft spot in my heart for Wright County. After I retired, went to Monticello. We at one time we had 160 officers in the security force there, which is, you know, paramilitary force. I don't know if you know, anyone's familiar with nuclear security. Basically, it's not like the gate guy at Menards. I mean, the security at Monticello, like I always tell people, it's not as interesting as it sounds, but I guess it is. They pay me to kill terrorists. Now, I haven't seen a terrorist yet. When I see one, I'll shoot him. But it's not, that's what we do. But we had one time we had 160 people, which is bigger than the sheriff's department for the little plant at Monticello. And we had an international union there that was not servicing us very well. So a couple of the guys came to me and said, well, you come from a union background. I said, yeah. Why don't we just start our own union? Start our own union. Well, I dug into it. And I went to some of the attorneys I had worked with Fraternal Order Police. And yeah, it was very feasible. So we broke away, started our own union from basically the ground up. We didn't have a penny. We had some experience behind us, and we had some attorneys that were willing to help us, but that was about it. And so we ended up negotiating a contract with the largest security company in the world, Securitas, which used to be Pinkerton, which used to be blah, 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 it goes all the way down. But it's a huge company. We negotiated a very fair contract. We enforced that contract. We look out for our members. Since I was the charter president, I did the day-to-day operations and the negotiation with the company, and kind of got it from both sides, because sometimes my biggest problem were my members, to be honest with you. But hey, we all know that. Sometimes that's just how it works. I also, when I moved out here, I've been a member of the Otsego Public Safety Commission, 2 years as its chairman for the last four and a half years now. And a very interesting process, very enlightening. It's our pleasure at like I say, at the Otsego Public Safety Commission to work with, because Otsego, as you probably all know, does not have its own fire department or its own police department, so we contract with Wright County for police services, and we have Rogers, Albertville, and Elk River Fire to contract for fire services. And as you can imagine, you get a lot of moving parts there, so that's always kind of an interesting thing. You get people coming in, having various opinions. People that will come in and say that it took half an hour for a fire engine to get to their house. No, ma'am, actually it was 8 minutes. And we understand why, because when you're watching your house burn, I mean, that seems like an eternity. But anyway, so I've been doing that. I'm also currently on the church council at Ellery Lutheran Church. For those of you that aren't familiar with that, it's the congregation that currently uses the old historic church, and we love it. We usually have work days and we clean it, and the parish has been very good to us, letting us rent that on Sundays. We are in the process of building our own building, and I'm vice president of the church council, and that has its set of challenges because, like I say, we're looking at building our own building. So any of you that's been familiar with that or have been active in your faith community doing that, you know what a lot of fun that can be. Why am I running for county commission? Well, I think I have a set of skills that would actually benefit both the county, the district, and the entire county. I come from a public service background, and it's always been my first passion. And I think that I have a lot to offer. I've got some ideas. I've got some ways that I think I might be filling in the cracks where I see that might benefit county government and the citizens here. One thing about local elections like this, and I've had many conversations with people that are very politically minded, that everybody is always worried about president, governor, this time around attorney general, whatever. What really affects your life? What really affects you? County government. Who's the one that raises your taxes? Who's the one that decides whether that road in front, the county road in front of your house is going to get fixed? It's county government. And I'm happy that folks like yourself, and the fact that you're here might even indicate that you understand that. And the other thing that's nice about it is that I don't know about you, but I am so sick and tired of hearing or watching TV and having to look at it. I don't watch much TV, but when I do, it's attack it. I'll say for the record, I think Mark is a fine man, And I'm sure when he was in high school, he didn't do anything that people would come back and
He had more hair than
mine was actually darker than too. So anyway, again, that's who I am. That's why I'm running. Like Mike said, we got our cards over here. If you want to ask me some questions later, I'll obviously be around afterwards, and look forward to your questions.
Well, Chuck didn't use the mic. Hopefully, you guys can all hear me. I'd rather not use it either. I did grow up here in Wright County. Moved away, moved back, because Wright County is my home. Enjoy it here. I worked for a chemical company for 28 years, solving water and wastewater issues for municipal water and wastewater plants. 12 years ago, I purchased a business across the street. It went quick lube and out of Shower's Car Wash, because I love to play with cars. And my wife, to her dismay, realizes that because I always have something in my garage where she has a hard time parking in it. So that I apologize for. And I'm not going to bore you with a lot of other details of my life. You're welcome to look at my website, and that has more information on that. I want to tell you about what I've accomplished as your commissioner for these last almost 6 years now. When I got on board, all you could see on the county website was an agenda, and that bothered me. And we have worked hard, along with the other commissioners, so that now you can see the full packets from the agenda. You can, and then, you know, as Lane says, we have the meetings during the day. We've looked at doing them at night, but it actually will cost more to the county residents if we do it at night because of having to have more employees there at night. But what we did was we started streaming the board meetings. Before we got on there, it was videotaped, and it was sent to Charter, and you could watch it twice a week at a specific time on a Tuesday night and a Thursday night, which I didn't think was enough. So now you can go back and you can look at any meeting that you want to. I believe they're being stored for almost 3 years now. So you can see what mistake I made 3 years ago if you want to. Or you can see some of the good things we have done over the years. Commissioner Huseman and myself, when we first got on the board, we decided that, along with some of the other commissioners, decided that we wanted to find out from the workers, those that actually do the job, what we could do to improve things at the county. So we came up with what was called the Best Idea Contest. We came up with about 180 pieces of ideas from the employees. They're the ones that are doing boots on the ground. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things we can't change. As Mike had said, we have to deal with what the state provides us with. And the state still deals with software that is on the old DOS-based system, the legacy systems. And you've all heard, I'm sure, about the MNsure system, and the latest one, MNlars, which was a disaster in the making, and it still is. There's a lot of things at the county we still can't do because of the MNlars system. The state does not know how to build their systems, and they keep looking at building stuff instead of going out in the market and find something, and it's an argument we have with our local legislators every year about why did they keep doing this. I'd like to keep working for another 4 years for you. There's a lot of things that we have started that I want to see finished before I give it up and completely retire. Chuck says that he's going to give up his job, his fantastic job at the nuclear plant. And when do you get to carry those M or the AK-47s or whatever they are? AR-15s. I've been to a couple of different nuclear plants when I worked for Hawkins Chemical, and I know how they what they're walking around, and it always made you nervous too. But there's some things I want to get finished. Chuck had said that he was going to quit his job, and it is a full-time job. It really is. As a business owner, I go in early, I work late. You can ask my wife; she'll tell you I'm never around. After the first year, actually, my son-in-law is going to start taking over the business so that I can spend a little more time at home playing with my cars and stuff, so that I don't have to work all the time. I've been really heavily in the technology of the county. When I got on board, we had a very small technology group, and I really believe that we cannot do more with less without the technology. And I wish the state would get it through their head, because when they went to the Minshore system, and now it takes us 15 minutes to change an address for somebody in the Minshore system, which is utterly ridiculous. And so we continue to argue with them and try and get them to get that thing updated so that it's much more usable. That's all I have to say at this point, other than I do want to thank you. I commend you for coming out tonight. Again, that's one of the reasons why when I got on board, I wanted to make sure that information was available to the public, because it was never before. You couldn't even get the minutes from the prior reading. You had to read the local, or the official newspaper of Wright County, which is Howard Lake Herald, which I don't think they even sell it around here. So I wanted to make sure that information was available for people, because I do believe a more informed public is a better public. Do we make mistakes? Absolutely. We are human. Taxes, it's a big issue to me as a business owner. On a comparable valued property of a home, I pay 2.5 to 3 times more. So if your house is worth $250,000 and you pay whatever the amount is, I'm paying 2.5 to 3 times more than that for commercial. And not just to the county. I actually have to pay to the state also. So taxes are a big concern to me also. So, and I want to try and keep them as low as possible. Wright County has historically been, out of 87 counties, either number 83 or number 84 in spending per capita. So that is very conservative, which, you know, you're all, the Republicans from Wright County, we're a very conservative county. I want to keep that. I don't want to be spending money for things that aren't necessary. So, anyway, thank you.
So now we're going to open up now for audience participation and asking questions. Tracy here is going to keep a stopwatch. We're going to limit it to 3 minutes per question, per candidate. You guys take turns. Whoever wants to go first, whoever wants to go afterwards. You know, you choose. You know, Mark, since Chuck went first here, you get to ask the first question, and Chuck will answer the same question. And please, audience, keep a question directed at both rather than asking our current commissioner specific questions that way. So, and in the spirit of things, I think if you don't mind, I'll ask the first question, because as usual, I have a few to ask. This is a problem.
I hope that wasn't you.
No. But after I use it, I'll be happy to drop it off over at the car place.
Okay, good.
You can use it as wipe boy.
Absolutely.
I just had to have a little fun with it. Anyway, my first question, and you touched on it, Mark, with some of the things you and I have talked about this in the past, but if you could summarize what you consider to be your top 3 priorities for running, and you touched on a couple of them. Chuck, I haven't heard from you yet on that regard, but summarize what those are and how you're going to go about making those priorities happen.
Thanks, that's a good question. When I said earlier about the technology, there are a number of systems that the county has that are very, very old. There's a lot of things that don't talk to each other. And one of the things that we're working with right now is something called ERP. enterprise resource planning. And it's a software system that touches many different bases. Currently, right now, there's information that has to be entered 3 to 4 times, the same information, which is nuts as far as I'm concerned. It should be done once and be over with. So we've been working with a company that we're trying to figure out what we really need so that we don't go and buy something excessive, what's going to be the primary thing that we need, and this decision has been made that the financial piece will be the primary thing. And the reason is that, oh, that's right, I have 3 minutes, I better talk fast. Where were I saying? Anyway, another name for the ERP is also Excel replacement plan, because everybody ended up using all these Excel spreadsheets because the system is now very robust to work. The other thing is to try and keep taxes as low as possible. Again, as a business owner, I don't like seeing the taxes go up. And with our district here, the St. Michael School District, costs involved in the new school there adds up considerably. So I want to keep our taxes as low as possible. Like I said, out of 87 counties, Wright County is the 10th largest. We're number 83 or number 84 in spending per capita. We've done a great job. The former boards have. I'm going to continue that. The third thing. I want to be the Wright County to be more welcoming to businesses. As a business owner, I want to see that. Wright County actually does have a revolving loan fund that we work with the group out of Rockford, our economic.
Wright County Economic Development.
Thank you. Wright County Economic Development to help bring business into the county. We want businesses coming from other counties and that sort of stuff. Because, like I said earlier, we pay as a business 2.5 to 3 times as much as a residential. There's definitely a lot better advantage to having more commercial and industrial business in the tax base, and we are growing considerably. So.
Well, I would say that, first of all, I think Mark's absolutely right. I think you might find a little bit of common ground there. That I think businesses are vital to Wright County, both in a tax-based sense and as employers. So yes, I would be certainly in favor of making it more welcoming for businesses. My 3 big things would be, number 1, public safety. I want to make Wright County the most hospitable and the safest county in the what if you want to call it, the extended 9-county metro area for families and businesses. How do you do that? Okay, obviously the counties, and the new sheriff has got, quite honestly, the new sheriff's going to have a few challenges. We've got issues at the sheriff's department that we need to take a look at. Now, are they really issues? Maybe they're not, but we at least need to look at it. We know that there's been a lot of deputies that have left the sheriff's department, and they've done it because of what they say is the kind of the poisonous atmosphere. I've been dealing with the Deputies Association is actually FOP affiliated, so I've been dealing with the Deputies Association for, I think they chartered themselves 11 years ago. So we need to look at that. We also need to look at fire and EMS to the extent that the county board can do anything about it, or use the good offices of the county board to make sure that the cities live up to their end of the bargain to make sure that fire and EMS are optimized. Second thing would be levy stability. I'd like to see levies, if you will, to level out. Right now, and it's the elephant in the room, we know that it's going to go up 17%, or it looks like it's going to have to. Why? Okay. What lessons can we learn from that so that in the future we don't have these jumps in the taxes? And thirdly, be transparency. I would like to see. I'd like to see evening county commission meetings. I know that that's a challenge because it's going to cost more money. So one thing that I would pledge to do, and I still haven't figured it out which establishments I would be at, but I'm going to have what we call office hours during the evening. I'll have it one I'll do it twice a month. 1 week will be in St. Michael, the other will be up in Otsego. Or maybe if I'm lucky, I can find a place in the middle and just do it there. But I'm still talking to some of these establishments, so I don't know yet. So that people that are working can come and stop by and say, hey, this is a problem, or this is not a problem, or get some input. And maybe at least have one county commission meeting that is in the evening. So, thank you.
As long as you're up, we'll be starting with the next question anyway, so I'll just,
All right, time for the next person to ask a question. And then I'll go to Mark afterwards.
Don't be shy.
I got a point of clarification. Are you both running in the same district or two separate districts?
Same district, District 3.
Same district.
Correct, sir.
What district is that?
3.
3, and that's,
And that would be the city of Otsego, the small portion of the city of Dayton, and the eastern part, east of 19, basically, Old Frankfort Township of St. Michael.
oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Brock's gonna bring you a map here in just a second.
Oh, there you go.
You got that.
That was an easy one. Don't be shy.
Okay, I'll ask another one then.
Go right ahead.
Okay, talk about your thoughts about the Met Council and how, and I'm trying to keep my words unbiased here.
Lane, somehow I think I know where you're coming from.
What are your thoughts about the relationship with the Met Council? And what would you do or not do to either hold them back or to foster a relationship with them?
Boy, I think that'd be kind of a double-edged sword, because the Met Council, I'll be honest with you, I mean, I know you're trying to hold back your bias. My bias is, I think the Met Council, because I've lived in the Twin Cities my entire life, is, you've got a large body of appointed officials that pretty much do everything. But they are there. It's, the devil that you know. And can you foster relationships with them so you can kind of help in that regard? I think you have to, the old speak softly, carry a big stick. Do something along the lines of, okay, we're going to try to get along with these folks, but let's look at legal avenues in which we can push back if we have to. Sometimes, believe it or not, a broken clock is right twice a day. So they might actually come up with a good idea. But, and if they do, fine, we'll run with it. But if they don't, that's kind of the way I've always been with regards to from one organization to another. If you've got an organization that, it's like, oh, you got to put up with them. You just do. But you do it from a position of strength and say, no, if they do something that's just so onerous to this county and the citizens of this county, you got to stand up and say, no, we're not going to let you do that, and we got to drag it into court, and that's what we're going to do.
well, I'll echo Chuck's comments. I have no interest in working with the Met Council out here. We've taken a stand. We actually have to work with them regarding highways because of a federal mandate. And in that negotiations we did with them on this local road plan, it does state in there that we have no interest and we will not be working with the Met Council other than what we're federally mandated to do. Met Council, I don't think can handle what they currently have. I don't know why they would even be interested in moving out here to take on more when they can't handle what they've got. So personally, I would not be interested in working with the Met Council other than when we absolutely had to. That's federally mandated. But I'm with Chuck. I'll fight them tooth and nail if they want to try and take over Wright County. And I can speak for the other commissioners too. They don't like it.
Very little disagreement on that.
Easy question.
All right. Who's got the next
Who's got a
question?
question?
Lane, I want a point of clarification for the people out here. Okay, we have Met Council here, otherwise we have federal APO everywhere else. So the Met Council, we're actually in a better position out here than if that got eliminated, because we'd be automatically in the federal APO for everything.
What's an APO?
Area Planning Organization. St. Cloud's got one, Sherburne County sucked into it, Benton County sucked into it. They don't like it. I mean, Met Council like it or hate it, either way, they're on that side of the crow, they stay there. As long as they're there, the feds gotta have hands off. They go away, we're sucked right into the federal program, and that's what we really don't want. We have a memo of understanding with the Met Council, and we just as soon keep it that way. They know that the crow is the line, you stay on that side.
What happens if that balance changes after the next election?
The balance of what?
The Met Council going
The
away.
Met Council role being diminished.
Well, it can be diminished.
Being
but
diminished
as long
won't
as
hurt
it's
us
there.
at all. If they're eliminated, that hurts us.
What you're saying is that as long as we have the Met Council in name, or if it just takes care of the 7-county metro area, not Wright County, that the feds will leave us alone?
It's a lot harder for them to try to take us over. They made a couple of runs at Wright County and Sherburne County in the past, and both of them failed legislatively. They know it'd be very unpopular. They also know locally it'll be very unpopular. And I think they got enough on their plate right now where they don't want to start picking a fight out here with this one. And they know what the score is on this. A couple of people that ran for different offices vowed to eliminate the Met Council, and I went up and told them, that's the last thing you want to do because we're going to get sucked into the federal thing, and I just don't want that. Us hay shakers out here can take care of ourselves just fine. Thank you.
Scott, you must have something. Hey, you've been on the radio with all sorts of different things, so you must have something on your mind that you want to ask. Go ahead, anything. Don't be afraid.
I'll ask one.
All
Of
right.
course, this, the elephant in the room that was just mentioned, the 17% proposal for tax increase is pretty steep. And I'm wondering, a little bit why that happened, but also, what can we do to make sure that it's more level in the future?
It never happens again.
Yeah, basically, yes.
And it's actually 17.3 at this point. It can go down, it can't go up. There's a number of things that have happened to make it go this high. And we have worked and we have worked and we've worked trying to get it so that it was reasonable. We've done some 5-year planning, to Chuck's comment about levy stabilization. The can, as Commissioner Potter loves to put it, the can's been kicked down the road way too many years. And it finally caught up to us. An example, we redid the jail, the LEC center that had been built about 10 years ago at a cost of $50 million. And we refinanced it for a better interest rate for everybody's benefit. But unfortunately, because of what the former boards had done, we still owe $41 million on that building, which is ridiculous. You spend that many years paying for something, and you still owe that much on it. So that's what's happened, is that they kicked the can down the road. There's a lot of things that have happened that way. With all our different unions, one of the things Chuck had mentioned regarding the Sheriff's Department is that we are losing some of them is because of pay, some of it's because of other things. A lot of them were retirements that had left. Well, we're doing a comp and class study, which actually we have to do every so many years by state law. State law really makes it very difficult for commissioners because we have to have a point system. We have to say that this job is worth this many points. And then we have to make sure that it's equal pay across the board. You have a department that is a lot of women in Health and Human Services. We have to make sure that everything based on points is fair across the board. So that hadn't been done. Well, when we took office 6 years ago, they had done a comp plan, class plan. And it was, well, let's just put it this way, it was a disaster. None of the employees thought it was fair. There were department heads up the last meeting of the year saying it wasn't fair, so we had to try and do something. So we are going with a com and class study. So there's going to be some changes come in place for some of the employees. Not all employees, but for some of them. We've had technology positions that have been open for over a year. We can't hire anybody. It's kind of hard to do more with less if I can't get the technology up and running the way we need it to be. So, does that answer your question? Eric?
Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah, the levy increase, you know, obviously I can't speak, I mean, I'm the new guy. Okay, so, I mean, obviously the current commissioners can answer this question a whole lot better than I can. But I can tell you what I've seen when I kind of dug back and looked at the history of it. And as I alluded to earlier in one of my previous answers to my question was that let's make sure this doesn't happen again. Things like the government center, the courthouse, or the new court services, if you will, and Mark mentioned the jail, things like that. I mean, it's the impression I get is that things are just, and like Mike said, the can just kept getting kicked down the road. And when you kick the can down the road and you're talking about real capital improvements, and you delay that a year, your price is going to go up, and it's going to go up a lot. But it's, well, we don't want to spend the money this time around because if we do, we might get people mad and we won't get reelected. Okay, we can't look at it that way. We have to look at what it's going to cost long-term down the road. From what I've understood, and correct me if I'm wrong from the commissioners that are here, it's, have we done really big projections? I know at the Sheriff's Department, to their credit, are projecting things out, 2026. It's great. What other departments are doing that? Okay, why are we, are we getting any kind of, big surprises down the road? Let's take a look at that, and let's make sure that our vision is far enough out so we don't have surprises. As I've mentioned, I work at the new plant in Monticello. The new plant in Monticello gives this county $7.1 million a year. Guess what, folks? I work there. It's not going to be there a whole lot longer. All right? It's licensed to 2030. That's great. But I can tell you, as a guy that works there, that 2 years ago we were this close to shutting down. And I mean, it was day to day. A lot of us expected that we would come in to say, we're turning it off and that's it. It's a nuclear reactor. It's been there since 1970. It went online in 1970. And it's not like a classic car. I mean, you can make a classic car run just great, but you've got a nuclear reactor. The thing is 50 years old, or almost is 50 years old. And yes, they do have a license until 2030. And if it makes it to 2030, I'd be stunned. And that's going to be a huge loss. That's something we have to take a look at and make sure that when that happens, and not when, if it happens, when it happens, that we're in a good position, the county is in a good position, so that we can weather that storm. So we have to look, it has to be, we gotta look at stuff through a telescope. Thank you.
Lynn, can I just, I don't know if I mentioned that, we did a 5-year projection, looking at what the taxes will be for the next 5 years. We are doing the planning to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And Chuck is right. That is something that we're all concerned about, is losing that nuclear power plant. Actually, right now, they have went to the PUC and have gotten a reduction. We do not say what that property is worth. That's the PUC that says that. We have no control over that. You heard about the counties up north in the Enbridge pipeline. They lost their lawsuit where Enbridge is going to get $3 million back. That's higher than what those small counties levy for up there. It's going to be really tough for them. So we are very aware of that nuclear plant, and we've had lots of conversation with them, trying to make sure that when they do close, what that's going to affect us. But they have already taken a deduction of $750,000 this year. We also believe it's going to occur in the next 2 years too. It was $750, wasn't it?
Well, it was a reduction. Their current tax valuation is $908 million. They got a $69 million reduction, which is 7.6% reduction. Exo Energy is looking at about a 20 to 25% reduction. is what they were hoping to get, but the Department of Revenues and the PUC is kind of trying to incrementally help them do that. So we'll probably look at another 6 or 7% reduction next year, another 6 or 7% reduction the year after that, to get them whole with what they think they should be valued at based on comparable states.
Because Derek is in Monticello and that's his district, he's the one that spearheads all that information.
Since Mark spoke, do you have anything else to add?
I do, we can do this all night. And Mark's right, they did look at the 5-year tax, looking 5 years down the road this year. What about previous years? And I want to make sure that that stays the way it is. And it's, again, what mistakes were made and what can we learn from them? It's not that, trying to cast aspersions on anybody, but hey, it's a problem, needs to be addressed, needs to be looked at, need to learn from the lessons and move on. I'm well aware that my employer is trying to get a break in their taxes. It amazes me because they have cut manpower there incredibly. I mean, virtually, the security staff was literally cut in half. And they are now generating more electricity than they ever have, upgrading the reactors. So how they can get away with paying less taxes is beyond me, but I'm not a huge fan of taxes anyway, so I guess I'm ambivalent about it. So, just wanted to throw it.
Who has the next question?
Scott, you come up with one yet? So, just in case, I don't know if you know who he is. He's on the Mix radio station, right, in Rockford. So he puts other people on the spot, so I thought it was a good opportunity. I thought it was fair.
As commissioners, you guys have alluded to the fact of technology and I guess you've alluded to a YouTube page and the updating of the website as kind of carrots to the technology upgrade. You also have talked about the lack of technology or wherewithal within the county as far as if systems not talking to each other. Do you feel that you guys are the most competent to discuss the technology, or have you looked outside, or Chuck, would you look outside to see what other counties are doing, or maybe even hiring a firm to help?
I can start.
Go ahead.
Answer his question. Yes, we have used an outside firm because we are not able to figure out exactly what is going to be needed. It's a company that we actually used them before in helping us organize our IT department about what do we need, how can we get the job done, because about 2 years ago I asked how many software programs does the county use. Nobody knew. So I had tasked with somebody to find that out. The number I can't remember anymore was like 320 or something like that. And then when we actually looked at it, total there was over 1,000. We'd have one software and there was 5 different versions of it, which didn't make a lot of sense, but that was the way it was. During the process, we found there was like 5 or 6 softwares that nobody had been using anymore, that we had been paying for. So those got shit canned, and then we also found software that nobody knew about. And that was one of the things that had happened many years ago, is that, in the sheriff's office, I'll pick on them, they had bought a software, and it was for controlling the computers in the cars at a certain speed. And I can't remember what it was. But the problem is that the technology could not get it done, because they had so many other jobs they had to get done. The county had bought the software, or the sheriff's department had bought the software, and it sat on a shelf for 3-4 years. And I might be wrong on the time frame, but it was still purchased and it sat for a while. So what we've done now is that we go, and as a group, we go through all the different projects that are coming up. We look at what provides the best bang for the county, and which software should be moved forward first. So we have a plan now so that we know exactly what's going to happen. We're not just whoever comes first gets it. We're planning on what's the logical, the most bang for the buck software. And you're right, we're not qualified to do those sort of things, but we do have a company, and for the life of me, I can't think of the name of it. Infotech, and they have worked with us. We spent 4 days going through it for this ERP process.
How much does it cost?
We don't know yet. We don't know yet.
What do you mean?
Well, it could be anywhere from around 650,000 to 2 million, but we don't know. It could be anywhere from 650,000 to 2 million. A lot of it depends on which brand, what the bids come in as. This is not one that we're just going to buy. We're going to go out for bids on it to make sure we get the best.
I'm asking about the company that you guys have hired.
How much did that cost us?
Like consultancy
Yes,
fees?
how much do your retainer, what does it cost you through the life cycle of them to look at the county technology and make recommendations?
I think total for this ERP process was, I believe it was around $75,000.
I mean, an annual membership with them, and I think that's 30.
I don't think it's that high. I want to say it was around 25,000. It's a company we have an annual, and I'm sorry if I keep going.
It's all right, you'll get it in more time now as a result.
The annual subscription, they help us on all sorts of different things. They help us with our security. It's another thing we want to make sure that we never have any issue with. We don't want to have to be providing all this information to everybody about why their information got out where it shouldn't have. So they work with us on all sorts of different technology things. So.
What was the name of the company? InfoWars, Infotech? Well, I can tell you from my public service career that you've got to be careful, and I don't know this company, so I'm sure that it's vetted appropriately. But for some reason, when you get to IT stuff for government, they take you for a ride sometimes. Because I know, personal experience, City of Minnetonka got taken for a ride for a lot of stuff, and it was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm not saying that's the case here, but I think that yeah, that needs to be looked at pretty hard, and just to be on the safe side. I guess what I would do, Scott, if you're asking me what, okay, well, what would you do? Yeah, I still have a lot of contacts in state, federal, and local government. People that owe me some favors, and I would say, what do you guys think? And here's what the county's doing. Hopefully it'd be unsolicited and be free. Also, if we do, if a company on the outside is hired, who knows about these guys? What kind of ratings do they have? Can we count on them to do the job that needs to be done? I will say this, that I regularly view the YouTube channel for the county commission meetings, and I think it was the meeting on the 18th that the IT guy came with 2 new employees, introduced them, and gave a little brief background of them. Pretty impressive. And I think the reason, I mean, I'm sure they probably took a cut in pay to come out here and work, but the fact is they live here, and they got sick and tired of the commute. And that was some great recruiting. So sounds like the IT staff that the county has is a very good base to go from there. Trust these guys. When it comes to computers, yeah, me, not so much. I mean, I can't get your app to work on my phone, so. And it's not your fault, it's my phone, it's me and my phone. That's all I got. It's out of your hand.
Next question?
Relating to software, does the county have any expert on staff to advise you on which area you should go into? Or just a consulting firm? You don't have anybody on staff?
Yeah, we have an IT manager. Is it your turn? I suppose you can't answer this one.
That I don't know.
We have an IT manager that manages our whole department. We do use outside people when we have something that is new and unique, or to make sure what we're doing is the right way to go. So that's why we had hired Infotech, because of this ERP system is much bigger than we are. We want to make sure that when we do it right. With the Sheriff's Department, we did it with the software that the Sheriff's Department went with. It's called Zerker. They went and toured other counties and cities that had been using Zerker. The same thing will happen once we figure out exactly what we want, and we go off for an ERP, and we get bids on what this new software will cost us, with who. We're going to make sure, with the help of Infotech, to make sure that we get the right product for Wright County. Obviously, we're in Wright County, so we have to do things right. And I always welcome new employees saying, welcome to the Wright County. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that unless you know what you want this software to do, have somebody advising you, how can you go out and ask somebody to give you whatever you want?
Right, and that's what we've been doing with Infotech. They sat down with every department, including the Sheriff's Department. They have a business agent, business manager. And she's really on board, because she's using so many different Excel spreadsheets to get things accomplished. An ERP system is an over-encompasses everything. It'll work and talk to other different software to solve a lot of different problems and to create much more efficiency. And that's the whole goal behind it. If it wasn't going to be efficient, and it wasn't going to save the taxpayer money in the future, I wouldn't be involved in it. There's no way I'm going to spend money, that kind of money, for nothing. The Zerker system, the reason the Sheriff's Department went with that, with the approval of the county board, is the old system was obsolete. It wasn't functioning anymore. They could get reports out, but they couldn't trust the reports. So that's why they had hired a company to come in and help them to make sure what they needed and what they got were the same thing. So it is very important to make sure that you're right, that we have the right people in place.
Again, Chuck, you have a lot of time if you want to use it.
Well, not currently being on the county commission, it's not easy for me to answer the question. But I think that it's been outlined here. The IT staff that the county does have, I mean, from what I can see, their resumes and performance-wise seems to be good. I mean, these are the county employees that know the computers, know the systems. They're the ones that are working with the consultants. And I think when you work with computer consultants, it's you can tell them, this is what we want it to do. And it's up to them to figure out how to make it do that. I think that, it sounds like, all these systems are coming together, and that the proper thing is being done with regards to consulting. Should continue to be looked at, of course it should, because I think it's pretty critical. And Wright County's not alone in the fact that that has happened where, like Mark mentioned earlier, you've got how many different programs running, and half of them don't talk to each other, and that happens all the time. So, can I bank minutes?
Sorry?
Can I bank minutes?
Bank minutes? Wow. Question?
Well, this isn't an area that I really understand much, but a friend has texted a question for you. And so she would have to be at a funeral tonight. But her question is, let's see, how far along is Wright County in sustainability, and what green steps 1 through 5 are we on?
Could you repeat the question? I
Sure.
can't hear what you're saying.
Sorry, I don't have
Outdoor
a
voice.
that carries. How far along is Wright County in sustainability, and what green step 1 through 5 are we on?
I'm not sure.
Green step.
I don't understand the steps. I mean, the county does have recycling center. We have the SCORE funding where we work with all the cities for recycling. And I'm not sure exactly where this question is coming from. And as far as green steps, I guess I've never heard that term before, so I don't know. You know, I'm a strong believer in recycling. We have them in all the buildings. Make sure that we're being good stewards of everything. I'm not sure how else I can explain what we're doing. Unless she's referring to salt on the roadways or something to that effect, which I know that comes up occasionally. And that, we always hear that Wright County have the best roads around. If you drive on County Road 75, and as soon as you get past Clearwater, you're in Stearns County, that the road gets icy. So we've always heard that we do a good job. In order to do that, that's true. We're gonna have to use the salt and that sort of stuff, but I really am not sure what other questions she was asking. Anybody have an idea what?
Maybe like solar, wind, any of that kind of stuff, you can use solar panels and that, right? What was
Does
that?
that have more to do with?
Say that again?
It's the UN steps to sustainability.
Oh.
It's, the view is like, step one is like you review what you have. Number two is you set objectives, and then you do a review process.
So the Minnesota Green Step Cities is a voluntary challenge systems
Cities.
recognition program to help cities achieve sustainability and quality of life goals. This is free continuous improvement programs managed by public and private partnerships, and it is based on 29 different practices.
Well, I do know on all new buildings, we are going with LED. We are trying to be most energy efficient, so that sort of stuff. But we're always constantly looking at different things to try and improve things. Which is why we did the best idea contest. We don't know what's going on in every department, or issues in, and there was something as simple as shutting the water off. They had the automatic water. You put your hands underneath this, and there was people that had said on some certain sinks they would go longer than they absolutely needed to. Without knowing about that sort of stuff, we weren't able to adjust it. So that sort of stuff we do on a continuous basis. But what will we do without our computers in our pockets? We were able to get all this information right away. Is that a commercial?
We don't know anything about it next.
Figure out which is.
Like Mark said, if we didn't have, if we didn't have our computers in our booth, you'd say, oh, we don't know anything about that. Next question, but that's good to know. 30 seconds. As far as the green goes for me, I know that there's been a lot of discussion with sustainability. Where I work, nuclear is clean energy. People get all worked up about the nuclear waste. Trust me, we're going through what's called the Independent Spent Fuel Installation Project right now. What they do is they take the spent fuel, they put it in this huge lead cask, and I mean it's about as round as one of these tables and about halfway up to the ceiling. It goes out to our spent fuel storage thing into a concrete tomb. They pour concrete over it, seal it with lead doors. It's going to be there for a long time, and it's not dangerous. I mean, the waste from the spent fuel rods is perfectly safe. Nuclear does not have any problems with regards to carbon emissions, and trust me, it's safe. I mean, I'm not going to waste my time talking about safety things that are included in that plant, but trust me, everybody worries. They remember the old Jane Fonda movie, China Syndrome. It ain't going to happen. That just doesn't work that way. Solar and wind. Wind has got its issues. Solar, I think, has its issues too. I think solar is probably a little more promising, but I think a lot of people have heartburn when you take 40 acres of farmland and basically you can't grow anything on it anymore. You got to have solar panels out there. I am a big believer in green open spaces and parks and maintaining those parks. I know the county does have a capital improvement plan for that. I would strictly adhere to that and see what we can do without raising costs prohibitively to improve our trails, our parks, our green spaces, because I think that's an investment. You hear investments in the other context, and that usually just means they're raising taxes, they're spending money. But in this particular case, I think parks and green spaces are investments because it enhances the life of the citizens, it increases the property values, and it attracts businesses, which also increases property values and raises employment. That's all. I think another minute.
Can you, this is your turn this time, I have a
Okay.
different issue. Can you talk about, from your perspective, the balance between individual property and civil rights versus the government's need to plan and control?
Well, could you repeat that question?
Can you speak from your perspective, and I'm trying to keep my biases out again, about individual property and civil rights versus the government's need, in this case, county government's need to plan and control?
Well, I'll tell you, my overall philosophy is that which governs least governs best. I'd like to keep government out of the grill of the people. County should, stick to its mandate as far as, law enforcement enforcing the laws. But as far as quote unquote controlling people, I don't want to see that at all. I think that it's something that the county needs to stick to what government needs to stick to what government is for. Basically, law enforcement, protecting the citizenry, building roads, having fire departments, police departments, things along those lines. And granted, an extra for me would be parks. I think that that's maybe something that the founding fathers didn't look at, or probably didn't care about, because we had so much open space at the time. But I think that that's something that needs to be looked at, and I support parks. So probably more of a, libertarian way of looking at it. I think that as far as like eminent domain, I hate eminent domain. Sometimes it is necessary, but I think that eminent domain, as far as forcing somebody to sell their property, is the last resort, the very last resort. Easements, things along those lines. Again, we can, that's a tougher nut to crack. But I think that as far as your basic question, I think the individual property rights and civil rights is crucial, is primary.
Where are you going with this, Wayne?
I want to see what's in your soul.
What do they say? Death and taxes are two guarantees in life. I don't like taxes any more than anybody else. There are things that we do need to do because we're mandated to do it. And yeah, there are a few things that we don't actually have to do. And parks is one of them. But Wright County does have some beautiful parks, and in fact, it's one of the best kept secrets in Wright County. And it's not for everybody, but we work a lot with the different organizations to help utilize those parks. Cross-country teams use them, the school. So they are a good thing. They really are. Eminent domain for the needs of a road, I think it's necessary. For other purposes, I don't think so. I don't like where they've done, down more at the big Best Buy building is, where they made those people sell their homes and put up a big building. And all those places got displaced, and they were not provided proper funding. And I don't like that. I don't think that's fair at all. I think they're justly compensated on an eminent domain, and again, strictly for roads. Taxes, yeah, it's a thorn in everybody's side. As a business owner, I don't like it. When the county went with the lost sales tax, which is local tax for roads. Again, I don't like taxes. I made sure that in 5 years, it would have to come up for the board, for a vote by that board at that time. And not only that, but with the information I can get from the Minnesota Department of Revenue, I can see if it actually hurt anybody. And as far as that tax, it hurt me because on a car wash, I can't raise it 0.5%. So that money came directly out of my profit. So.
You got 30 seconds.
No, I'm just asking, is that kind of where you were going?
I just put a question out there. I wasn't looking for a specific answer.
Yeah.
I have a super basic one. And if I'm totally off base and there's something at the county level that would prohibit you from changing this, but especially you as a business owner, could you speak to the morality of why we stick it to business owners and charge them more specifically because they're a business? Why do you have less rights with your property than I do with mine? Because, and I'll lead you. I mean, Lane's stuck. He has to be diplomatic, but I don't.
Why doesn't that be diplomatic?
I'd love to stick it to every single taxpayer so we all see exactly what we're being charged and people are less likely to just let things slide. If people talk about getting people motivated, that's what I want to see. I want to see us all have huge sightings when we open our tax bill and be like, oh crap, maybe I should have paid attention, which we don't see when we push it off on business owners. So I want to know why it's moral to steal your property rights more than mine. And why we haven't changed it, if you think that it's perfectly unacceptable.
Because we can't change it.
You
It
don't
has to be
have
changed at
county
the state
taxes?
level.
You can't change the rates between?
Nope.
Okay, so that's all I need to know.
No, the state, you know, like Mike had said earlier, the state says you have to be between 90% and 105%.
95, well,
90 to
for valuation of the property value.
Valuation of property.
All classifications.
If we don't do that,
Well, no, that part makes sense, but if,
but what I was gonna say though, if we don't do that, the state comes in and takes over the county assessors
so
to
what's,
make sure. So we have no control over a lot of those things.
that's what you're valuing the property at. I'm saying the rate that you're taxing the property
The
at.
state sets that, commercial at
They do?
2%, yep, the state sets industrial at 2%, and residential under 500,000 at 1 and over 500,000 at 1.5.
That's all I needed to know.
That's all set.
Yeah, and it goes up based on the property value.
So, dumb question of the night, I'll own it.
No, it's not a dumb question.
Good question.
I really wish we could. I'll go one more. Can I?
You just have to extend his time.
Minnesota has one of the most complicated, complex property value assessments than any other state does. Right now, we're actually looking at working with a new software just for the property tax values and stuff because the old one is no longer being supported. It sucks. I hate it. Instead of the state looking at North Dakota, Iowa, whatever, and the same thing goes for the Mincher system and the Minlar system. They go and they say, they don't go and look at what other states are doing and saying, we like this, let's just tweak a couple of laws so we can utilize this software instead of having to build something. That's the state level. And trust me, I argue with them every chance I get. And it falls on deaf ears, it seems like, every time. And it's frustrating. And we will be having a meeting with our local legislators and stuff in December. And it'll be published, and hopefully we'll get more people there to also see and answer, get those questions asked to them.
I'll get back to your question. Yeah, I'm baffled, and I think what it is it's the philosophy of, you know, we gotta stick it to those evil business guys, which I think is just ridiculous. But that's, you know, not much you can do at the county level of that. That is state mandate, that is state law. One thing, or a couple things that I would do, I mean, if I were a perfect world and I was ruling it, would be there would be, number one, no tax withholding out of your paycheck. Every year, you get to write the check for how much your taxes are going to be. And number two, I wouldn't allow escrowing of your property taxes. And I would say that it's due the first of the year period. You can't split it up. So you get to write a huge check for that. That would change things really quick. I think people would realize, hey, wow, holy cow. People would start getting a little more advocacy in that regard. And that's, I guess, a little sidebar on my part. And I banked 2 more minutes.
You should take 2 more minutes. You could speak till 9 o'clock now.
Oh God, we need that.
I will tell you what Brock said with my favorite subject. And since both of you went on record saying you hate mandates or you don't like certain mandates, you know what the question's going to be already is, what will you do to identify and then champion the eradication of mandates that are driving the cost of county government beyond the people's ability to pay for it?
Well,
And I said champion, by the way.
champion. Well, and I think when you say that, it's champion advocacy. Obviously, that needs to be changed at the legislative level. So you would have to get into that arena, go with with representatives. I mean, the whole political process. And maybe talk to Eric Lucero, see if we can get some bills sponsored, go through that particular thing. Might even be something that the county might want to look at as far as using lobbyists for. If there's mandates out there that are totally ridiculous, and I'm sure some of our commissioners might have a couple of anecdotes on that, then I think, yeah, we need to go in there and say, no, this is stupid, and go through the political process. Identify those candidates that will help you, campaign for those that will help you, or candidates that will help you, and I think that's the only way you can really change the mandates is legislatively.
Agreed, and if I can just tailor on with that, the Wright County Republican Party has, for the last 4 years, gone down to the Capitol in this advocacy approach to talk to legislators about things that are there. It's one of my missions in life to try to push the taxing entities to do a very clear job of identifying those offensive mandates. I would use a much stronger term, maybe noxious would be the word to put it. And then you can get other people to, and I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about you, I'm talking about these other people too, to help make county government more affordable for the taxpayers instead of having to have property taxes. I could put in cities and I could put in school districts at the same time, to have the cost of government always being higher than what they're seeing in terms of their potential increases in their own income, and then therefore them having to make very difficult choices how they're going to budget their dollars. But government is always first in line, and unfortunately a household budget or business budget is always afterwards. That's my concern, and that's why it's been my mission in life to go after mandates.
Well, I think it's a valid concern, and you take it a step further. I mean, you see all the time, and I used to deal with it, in law enforcement. They have what they call unfunded mandates. So they come down to the local level and say, you need to do this. Well, this is going to cost a lot of money. Well, you better figure out how to get it. We're not giving you anything. I mean, it would come from both federal and state. Then, to me, that's the most onerous, where they say, well, and that's what's going to probably generate more money having to come out of county and city coffers. And that always seems to, that's what it always seems to result in. So, yeah, I think that I think we're all talking we're singing out of the same hymn book here, so.
Well, I like the bait and switch that they do. They say, here's what you're gonna do, and we're gonna fund it, and then as time goes on, they start defunding it. Thursday last week, we had a meeting with all the department heads. And since I'm the board chair, I was able to do a few things that they can kind of get away with. And I had tasked all the department heads to look at what we call a cost shift. And that's one of those things where it was mandated, they provided funding, and now that funding has dried up. So they can do another mandate. And there's been a lot of them in Health and Human Services. I had asked, so I went to figure out, well then why did we get less for what we're required to do? And it was because the Department of Health and Human Services kept some of the money instead of paying it to the counties. So it's the mandates, but it's also some of those departments that seem to have control on their own instead of being controlled by people that they should be. So they're going to be looking at all those different cost shifts so that we can figure out when we meet with the legislators in December, that we can, in black and white, show them what it's cost their taxpayers locally, so that we can speak intelligently of it, because we can all say it, but until we know it and have it black and white, which seems to make a big difference, there's not much we can do about it. Hopefully by December, we're gonna have that sort of information available. Can I bank that in?
I'll give you a 5 of mine. Can I just one thing that.
I'm gonna get out of time.
Well, I gave him 5 minutes.
Yeah,
so
go
I'm out of
ahead.
time. Nice guy. One local thing I think that is, it's funny. It's not just where they mandate and fund it, and then they take the money away. But one thing that's local that strikes me is like this whole Lake Sylvia fiasco with the pilot program that the county had, where they were going out inspecting, making sure they're not invasive species on the boats and all that sort of thing. And it was just, county was just doing the right thing, saying, well, let's see how this works. County says, this is gonna probably cost us too much money. And the DNR said, oh, well, geez, you guys were doing this, and I guess you got it now. Hey, thanks a lot. Thank you for all the time. No. And I think that's what the county did, was say, no, we're not gonna do that. This was a pilot program. We weren't committing to actually doing this and doing enforcement. This is, could you do something with that? Maybe. Could you make a and we were talking a long time ago, about 30 years ago when I worked for Ramsey County, the White Bear Lake had a conservation district. White Bear Lake would contract with the Sheriff's Department and have, and it was a lot of fun. Because in the summertime we were in boats, wintertime we were on snowmobiles. And we had, I think they paid for 20 hours a year, no, 20 hours a week out there. But it's a government entity that could actually contract for law enforcement. That's something that, and of course I don't know the nuts and bolts of it, but the Lake Sylvia Greater Association may be able to create a conservation district and say, okay, fine, if you want special enforcement, if you want law enforcement, you want the Sheriff's Department out here, fine, pay for it. But it's for the DNR to pull that kind of thing. That I watched that on the YouTube video, and it just infuriated. And that I'm sure that happens more than not. So thanks for letting me jump back in.
I have a question. So Wright County has a lot of employees. Quite a few employees are with the Sheriff's Department. My husband, one of them. As you know, we've lost a lot of deputies. I have a friend that owns a daycare, and that Health and Human Services, they just trained someone in and they're gone. And she said, because of that, they have a hard time with the human services. Can we speak to how you'd like to see in the future being more hands-on with our employees of Wright County?
Whose turn is it? I don't know. Timekeeper?
It's your turn, actually. But you can take it if you want to, doesn't make a difference.
Our HR department does do exit interviews. Unfortunately, we don't get employees providing us the information we need. And that gets frustrating. I just got an email today, and email us, because we had asked them a while ago for all terminations. We asked them if they don't provide us the information, why. I always email them back and want to know why. There was somebody from the sheriff's department in the dispatch that is leaving. And he had applied for a different job within the county, and it wasn't a job that he wants to do, the way it sounds, is what I was told from our HR. I have asked if that we could do, and I don't know if, and I believe right now that they can't keep it a secret or without acknowledging their name. I asked if we can do that for the future, and that's something that they're working on. And with the new ERP system, that will be a key part of that system, the HR functionality. Because one of the issues with the HR right now is that it doesn't talk to any of the other systems. So again, all that information has to be entered multiple times, new employees. Yes, the Sheriff's Department, the Health and Human Services. Health and Human Services, one of the reasons we are doing the comp and class study is because we're having some issues with that too. There's a huge turnover. But again, from what I've been told, it's paid. They can, there's a huge demand for Health and Human Services people. They go to Hampton County, they can do telework. They don't have to go to the office, they don't have to go down there, except for maybe, even the state does it too. I've talked to a few of our people that have left to go to Hennepin County or the state, where they can just do telework without having to go in very often. That's something the county actually has rolled out. We have 12 Health and Human Services people doing that right now. It was on a trial basis, and we just approved it here last week to allow it to happen to the other departments. Not just anybody, there has to be specific reasons where it has to benefit the county taxpayer. Not because they don't want to be at an office working, they has to be a legitimate reason and benefit. I think I got it, since I ran out of time.
Yeah, 2 seconds.
Talk fast. Well, you know, it's a good question. I think that, yeah, it was my understanding, and I might be wrong, that, yeah, when the deputies that leave the sheriff's department, the Health and Human Services, or, I mean, Human Services, the HR department, got it right eventually, would just, they're not even gonna bother doing it, and the union did it. Now, granted, it might be, maybe the guys leaving, the folks leaving would be more comfortable talking to union reps as opposed to county people. The union reps would probably have a little more, hey, come on, just tell me what's going on. Because, I mean, I've left jobs before where it's like, oh, you have to do an exit interview. No, I'm out of here. I got better things to do. But they'd probably be more inclined to talk to a union rep. But it would be nice to see that, and I think that whatever data the union mined on that with regards to the why they are leaving needs to be looked at. I mean, obviously it's already there, it's already made. Okay, so why did you leave? And I personally know several deputies that left because, and they were, 10, 15-year veterans, and they get to go and, when you go to another police department, sometimes you get lateraled in, sometimes you don't. What lateral means that you come in and you get the same pay, you don't get the same seniority. So if you're lucky enough to get the same pay, you're lucky, but you get to work nights and weekends, you get to the bottom of the list seniority-wise. You're working patrol, you think, well, I'm gonna be a detective. No, you're not. You're gonna work patrol for a long time before you get up that one. And they're willing to do that. And it's like, why are you willing to, what is it, why is it that bad? Well, we need to look at that, why it is. As far as Health and Human Services goes, my cousin, Paula, we used to run a kind of an assisted living thing for elderly folks. So she bent my ear, being my cousin, she can call and yell at me anytime she wants. But over by Buffalo, actually Chatham Township. And then I heard from 2 other people that don't even know her, that don't know each other. I had 3 different people that don't know each other that work in this field. They called to just yell about the same thing that Jeannie mentioned, was that, you know, they go for a whole year and they'll call and say, who's my social worker? Well, you don't have one yet. And then they kind of get somebody maybe hired and revved up, and then, no, now they're gone. So they haven't been able to talk to anybody for a while. It's my understanding that the county has contracted with a company to do some of this. That might be cost effective, and I'm all for it. Problem, that doesn't.
Versus the other guy.
Well, I think that we've already gone through, you know, what my experience level is, what I would do, what my 3 big priorities are. I think that, you know, I always have a difficult time coming up and standing in front of a crowd and telling how great I am, because I just don't like doing that, but basically I'm applying for a job. And so that's what I'm gonna do. And yes, I know I could, I know that I can do the job. I know that you know, I don't know everything. I'm not gonna come riding in on a white horse and be a know-it-all, be a pain in the butt to, you know, Mr. Potter and other people. Learn from other folks and just, you know, start being a knowledge sponge as time goes on, and do the job that needs to be done. I have a passion for it. I always have my entire life. I've got the skill set. I've got the knowledge base, and I'll do a good job for you.
I want you to vote for me so that my wife doesn't have to put up with me as much. She likes when I go to these night meetings.
Oh, crap, you just won.
Why should you vote for me? I think, you know, the experience that I've had, the things that I have accomplished since I got on the commissioner's board, I think I've shown that I've been able to do a lot of different things. I've improved a lot of things for both employees, for residents, more openness. I'm a big stickler for that. I want as much open government as possible. And we actually have more coming soon with the budgets and everything, that you'll actually be able to pick it apart and see everything. You'll be able to see the money that's being spent and where it's being spent. So it's important to me to make sure that everybody has the information. Quit waving. I would like another 4 years. I want to finish what I started. After that, that'll be 10 years. That'll be enough. I have no intentions of making a lead career. I have no intentions of moving on to anything else. I just want to help the local people.